Goldman Sachs reports losing $1 billion on Apple Card. How? This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from MacVoices. Watch or listen to MacVoices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Goldman Sachs says that Apple Card cost them $1 billion of their favorite dollars. How? Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. Well, let's get to a couple other things real quick here before we wrap it up, because I knew this would take a while because there's just so many facets. I think it's really interesting. And again, same thing when we were talking about Prime Day. I'd love to know, folks, if you've signed up and if you have, why? Or if you haven't, why? You know, why haven't you jumped on the bandwagon? Is it privacy or is it something else? Just really, really interested to see how this is going to go.
I signed up for Threads because it was easy. It is.
That's why there's 100 million.
And see, that's part of what makes it so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's interesting. Because I signed up, just as Jeff said, to reserve my name. And then when it started to take off, it's like, okay, I feel like I need to start participating a little more, because that's where a lot of my audience is, or at least some of my audience is that have followed me, so I know they're there. So, yeah, you know, you go on Main Street where you do your best business. From 9 to 5 Mac, in the Wall Street Journal, Goldman Sachs wants to bail on Apple's card partnership after a $18
billion loss,
a $1 billion loss, and allegedly they're in talks with Amex. Thoughts? Is this
Apple's good at swinging deals? You better be good at making sure the deal works for you too.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
They're locked with Apple, and Apple has to prove it. So,
yeah.
I don't recall if Goldman really had a big, in financial services terms, where they had a big retail operation. I thought they were more investment bankers and doing the behind the scenes stuff.
I believe you're right.
Yeah,
so
this was Goldman. This is Goldman's first consumer-facing product.
Yeah.
This, and they're offering savings accounts and loans, for consumer loans.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus was the brand that you went under.
So they were talking about almost $1 billion coming in very quickly, in the door. How did Goldman miss? Well, that's a characterization. How did Goldman manage this so that they claim a $1 billion loss?
Startup costs. Apple has some really, really customer-friendly terms. They make it really easy to pay off your balance, which is actually bad with credit cards, because forgetting to pay your balance is how they make money.
Remember, Amex was the same way for a long time until really in the 90s when they got into the more financial thing. When you had an Amex card, you had to pay it off at the end of the month.
Yeah,
they didn't want to carry a balance on you. So
until they start offering the revolving credit accounts.
Mm-hmm. Now, when a financial institution does what Goldman Sachs did here, am I wrong or misremembering that there's a lot of money you have to put up front for, I don't want to call it like an escrow, but you have to be able to cover costs of what people are buying. And so you have to have like this big pool of money before you start. And then over the course of a few years, you recoup all of that through all of the other fees, expenses, whatever that people are paying for.
Yeah, they would have startup costs that, like Citi or Capital One, if they had partnered with them, would not.
Yeah, I don't know what consumer credit, what Jeff, the phrase you're looking for, they have to set up a reserve.
A reserve, thank you.
A reserve account. Okay. That covers that they can meet the obligation that the creditors that they're extending to, they can cover that debt. So, yeah, I don't know what happened. Like you said, they're very friendly terms. Unlike Meta or Twitter, though, you can't scrape the data. You can't do anything with the data because Apple won't let you do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why Goldman probably got into this, because no one else wanted to touch it. Amex didn't want to do it. Technically, it's a MasterCard, so there's some relationship there. But I think it's only MasterCard because they're using the network. I don't think it's MasterCard for any other reason than that.
No, that's the only reason.
Okay.
You also look at Costco. Costco, when they first started originally offering their credit card, it was with Amex, and I had an Amex card, and it was a good thing. But that deal ended, and then now Citibank took it. And Citibank's doing. I think Citibank is flourishing with that account because I think there's a lot of people who bought into that account. You get some nice perks with it. I have an account with Costco, so I mean, kind of the same thing. But after time, the Apple Card's been around how long now? Has it been like 3 or 4 years, something like that? So it's. I think after time that they see that, okay, this isn't really working for us anymore. Yeah, it's different. It's probably kind of different. Costco is more of a retailer, whereas Apple is a technology company.
Well, they are a retailer.
I mean, I'm sorry, Costco is a retailer. Well, actually, Apple is kind of a retailer.
Yes.
Yeah, they are because they have Apple stores. So it's kind of a mix of both. So it's Costco was the same thing. They saw that the deal wasn't a good thing anymore, and they decided to move on. But the sides are flipped here because Goldman is the one that wants out from all these rumors, and I'm not surprised. I think they bit off more than they could chew when it comes to the consumer products because, like they said, they were the Wall Street golden child. They were. They still are. I mean, when it comes to investments for big companies and private banking and all that stuff. But
I would say Goldman Sachs can chew a lot.
They can. It's a big. I mean, when they say $1 billion loss, that's probably not. It's a big deal, but probably not their bottom line.
Yeah, I haven't seen, other than this 9 to 5 Mac article. I don't know if I've seen anything on any of the other financial press that I have exposure to. I haven't seen Bloomberg talking about it. That's kind of the go-to right now. If you have a
really
Bloomberg terminal, there hasn't been much. So I think could be some. We don't know the whole story. Somebody looked at Goldman, saw that they lost $1 billion, and said, "Well, it must be the Apple Card." Maybe there are other things that are going on there. One of the things that's happened with interest rates and how they've changed is that if you were going long and invested long just 5 years ago, 3 years ago, you invested long, and then how interest rates have gone up here recently, you're taking loss on that old part of your portfolio because your money's committed and you can't transfer it into or redeploy that capital into higher yielding investments. I bet that's probably more the story about Goldman Sachs than it is the Apple Card. Could be wrong.
I mean, the consumer loan business they got into, Marcus, they were advertising like that crazy. Every time I needed a loan, I got one, and the interest rates were very favorable to the consumer. I think it was like 5 or 6% for a personal loan was pretty good. So a lot of people probably jumped on that, and the rest is what they're dealing with. I mean that could be a big part of it.
Web wasn't what you were talking about. That was a big part of what took down Silicon Valley Bank.
To a certain extent. They don't get me started. There's a lot of stories on Silicon Valley Bank than just that, but that's a key part of it was that they didn't redeploy their capital when interest rates shot up. So
Just to bring the chat room in here, and I'll play a little catch up. Cleta said, "I can't believe Goldman is losing money." Paul says, "Also easy credit, so more individuals defaulting." Cleta said that Apple has the ready cash if they need to bail them out. Interesting point.
Apple's not the banker.
Yeah, but
but Apple could buy Goldman. I'm not saying they would. Okay.
Yeah.
But they have the wherewithal to get into that, especially if they want to get into any kind of the consumer finance space. Mm-hmm. And I think they will eventually.
Yeah.
Well, and that feeds in. Brett says, "Does anyone think that Apple would take the operation of the Apple Card in-house?" I think there are regulatory issues there that would have to be addressed.
Yes, you are right.
And that's no small thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have already been taken care of because Goldman's already done all the heavy lifting on that.
Yeah.
Right. So they could buy Goldman, and the regulatory issues are taken care of.
Or specifically Goldman's consumer business unit.
I'm not sure that would address, though, sufficiently the regulatory issues. Just because doesn't mean that the regulatory compliance is automatically there.
Well, I mean, they would have to definitely operate it as a wholly owned subsidiary. The way they do basically the small bank that was developed for the microloans for the payment systems with the Apple Pay. But I mean, you wouldn't be just getting the accounts. You would also be getting the people who are used to dealing with these kind of regulations because they are consumer-focused bankers.
Am I correct in assuming that in this hypothetical scenario, Apple buys Goldman Sachs, or at least the part of it that they need to be able to do Apple Card? This addresses an issue for them only in the United States.
Yes.
So is there value in buying a company just to address the financial thing for a single country?
Well, it's a pretty large and important company country for their business.
Well, and that goes back to what I think is Chuck's points too. Is the regulatory side is very complex, especially when you go multinational. Especially when you go to multinational on the consumer side, it's really complex there. So,
I mean, it's been tough enough for them to, and I'm not saying they can't do it, but it's just been tough enough for them just to get Apple Pay rolled out.
Yeah,
let alone a full blown fiscal services, financial services.
Yep.
Well, what about the levelized pay, the multiple payment thing? It took them, we heard about that for a year and a half before they finally rolled it out, and we heard it was coming. So, and here again, it's the complexity of it. So,
yeah.
And
so would Apple be better positioned to partner with Amex or Citibank to do the Apple Card, and would that position them so that it would be easier to roll the card out into other countries?
I think that would depend on whether any other company would be willing to work with Apple in the way they want to. I mean, with this kind of deal, you have Apple who wants one thing and a bank who wants to make money.
Apple wants to make money too. So.
Oh yeah, but I mean, basically, it has to be mutually beneficial. If it's basically one-sided towards Apple, and the other banks that are retail focused don't want to take on that kind of liability, a deal's not going to get done. I mean, the reason they went with Goldman Sachs in the first place is because they said yes. I can guarantee they went to Amex, Citi, Capital One, and pretty much everybody else too.
I can't imagine they only talk to one company.
Yeah.
No,
and to back up what you're saying, as I'm thinking about it, I have an Amazon Visa. There's no Amazon Visa app. There's no Amazon Visa interface. I had to download the Chase app, and it is very clearly a Chase credit card.
Oh yeah.
And there's no Amazon branding other than what's silk screened on the card.
Yep. Same with Citi and the Best Buy card, etc.
Right. Citi and the Costco card too.
Mm-hmm.
So Citibank has a whole system in place to do this for other companies.
You can even get your credit card that's affiliated with your favorite university. You know, you can it's a type of branding. I can't remember what it's called. Not legacy branding, but anyway.
Alumni branding?
No, there's a bigger term for it. Not alumni, but it doesn't matter. Just it doesn't matter what's on the front of the card. It's who's backing it is the important thing. So
and I think that's kind of the big stick up with the other
vanity
players.
Cards.
Yeah, where that Apple wants control of the experience, why the other banks want to have control of the experience themselves.
When you were talking about them going and shopping it around before it all came out, I was reminded of when Apple went and shopped the iPhone to all the carriers, and AT&T was the one that bid, and they won. So you have to wonder if somebody at Goldman didn't think, hey, we don't want to miss this, because look at Apple's success rate, look at the money they generate. This would seem to be a cash machine of some kind. So
I think it's interesting holding my Apple card. You can't see it because I get the lights, but it has the Apple logo on the front. And since it doesn't have any numbers on it, I don't hesitate showing it. But it has the Goldman and the MasterCard logo on the back. Just it's they want it to be known as the Apple card. So
does that mean that we'll have to get all new Apple cards?
I doubt it. They will probably just, let's say Amex does it. It'll still be a Goldman card until that card expires and needs to be replaced.
And my guess is what that really means is until you lose your card, or request a new one for some other reason.
In the case of the transition with Costco that I experienced, they did set a date. It didn't matter when the card expired. So they just said that
the way Apple has their card set up, it wouldn't surprise me if it's just an account transition and the card stays the same, since you can change your card number anytime you want.
The problem is it's a MasterCard, and then you're talking American Express.
So there's some hardware thing in the card that is proprietary to MasterCard, and I'm asking because I genuinely don't know. I just assumed that the cards were cards, and the data you put on the card determines if it's a MasterCard or a Visa or an Amex.
Physical branding, I don't think Amex would do that.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, since I don't have one, is it chip only, or does it also have the stripe?
It has a stripe.
It has,
Okay. Little retail insider here. If the number the card starts with depends on what
the interbank number.
It depends on what card that is. If it starts with a 3, it's Amex. If a card starts with a 4, it's Visa. If it starts with a 5, it's MasterCard. Amex also uses a 4-number CVV and has a different number formatting than the other two. There would have to be like some kind of bridge in there to take the stripe and chip data from a MasterCard.
It would have to be. It has to be in the card.
Like they've worked through that that's part of the transition. It's just technically that's a transitional service agreement that comes into that as we move it will transition over. So
now the next question, and the obvious question, is how much will the Goldman Sachs Apple cards go for as collector's items on the open market after they're no longer functioning cards?
$1 million.
Since they have no numbers on them too.
Right.
I predict Goldman Sachs is going to keep the business and it's not going anywhere.
Interesting. Interesting. We'll see how that one holds up. I didn't even think about asking for predictions. So,
Webb, I like your prediction.
I think Webb gave us the hint as to where the $1 billion went, because that $1 billion is probably what it cost them to issue all those titanium cards.
Yep.
Honestly, I think that was probably in the agreement with Apple.
I don't know. Hey, we're over time, but there's one other one I want to just throw out, and I don't know if you guys got a chance to read it, but I will definitely put it in the show notes. It's definitely worth a read. It's from The Nation, and it's an article on about why basically, let's see, I want to make sure I do it. Lessons from the catastrophic failure of the metaverse. And it is a very well thought out article, and they point out this is why you didn't hear the word metaverse uttered once by Apple during the introduction to the Vision Pro. So if you can find that link and read that article, it's fascinating, because it really does point out that the whole thing has been smoke and mirrors up to this point. There's really not been anything that in any way, shape, or form that really has been delivered. And yet Meta has sunk a lot of money into it.
Meta couldn't even get their own employees to use it.
Yeah.
That's all we heard at CES in the beginning of this year, Metaverse.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in San Francisco. I was down at the pier, and I remember seeing the guy who was wearing the Google Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, it's San Francisco and everybody's cool there, but what was the expression that I heard? Glass holes.
Yes.
It just looked odd, and I think that it's going to look even odder if the design that we've seen so far for Vision Pro, seeing somebody walking around on the street with that, I just don't see it. It's going to be somebody.
I don't expect to see very many people walking around with Vision Pro.
And those two different worlds. I accept that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Vision Pro is the product you walk around your office in, if you ever get up from your chair.
But we will see photos and videos online of people strutting down the street with their Vision Pro on their face.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And falling off the curb. Yeah.
And falling off the curb. And the music in the background on all these videos, it's going to be Staying Alive.
Yeah. I was about to say, they fall off the curb, their Vision Pro falls off and goes flying across the street, run over by a bus.
Yeah. Oh, that would get him more views.
Yeah. Run over by a Tesla. I caught that, Jeff. That was funny.
I want to go back to the cards for just a second, Brett, and we'll end it with that discussion with this. The other affinity, Brett says, the other affinity card I have just changed bank providers, and we were all automatically issued cards. It really screwed up some auto pay things that he had set up, and that's an interesting point.
That happens anytime you change the number or expiration date.
Right.
Timeout. Yeah. I had that incident this past weekend. The very same thing, and it's with the Apple Card. Okay, and I signed up for a subscription service, and it had a name. Okay, I don't want to get into details, but it had a name, and I get my my notice that the monthly charge had come through, but it was on another name. I go, what is this? I have no idea what it is. I start searching through emails. I can't find anything, so I called. Or I texted Apple through Goldman Sachs and the online Apple support thing, and they ended up changing my virtual credit card. And boy, did the dominoes start falling after that, because anything that I had set up as a recurring charge, including payments for my Apple phones that I have through the upgrade program, all of those got rejected. And so I've been spending 30 minutes every day going through and correcting and updating charge, because the virtual credit card number, my Apple card, changed because I got something and it was a charge I didn't recognize. As it ended up, I found out literally today, I did do that one. So anyway.
Yeah, it happened to my wife too. It was a mess.
Web, I had to make actually it's in Omni Outliner. It's the list of everything that's associated with specific cards. So when a card number changes, I know what I have to update, and holy crap, what a pain in the butt. There's so many things associated with each of the cards.
Yeah. That's the way the world we live in.
It is.
Web, I have to wonder. I wanted to comment on this, but I don't want to lose Brett's comment. I have to wonder what the world would have been like if Google had implemented the Google Glass without these, for lack of a better term, surveillance technology.
I don't think it would have been a product, because part of the value in Google Glass were the elements that we look at as surveillance tools. Those are the things that allowed the wearer to have an AR experience. And if you took those parts away, then how would you make that work? The problem is that Google is known for playing fast and loose with scraping all of our data. So anytime you put something into a Google product that can collect data of any kind, it's immediately suspect, regardless of how they're using the data. We just immediately assume it's being used inappropriately.
Jeff, it's a great point. That Google's agenda versus a user's agenda. If they had put the user's agenda first in displaying useful information and not collecting information, I just wonder how, if they could have gotten a foothold in. I just have to wonder, because I'm with you, Webb. I saw people with Google Glass, and it looked really questionable, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
And so, if they had been able to implement that and do that, I don't know, we might all be walking around with them on.
I think the problem was Google had already lost our trust.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any way Google could have released the Glass product and not had all of us incredibly suspicious about what they're doing with it. I mean, there was so little trust in how the company deals with personal information that people outside of our technology circles, just average people that are watching CNN or their local news, they're seeing Google Glass and they're immediately suspicious of anyone that's wearing it.
Yep, that's why we're all wearing these.
Yeah, good point, Ben. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for everything. One thing I meant to do, and I probably late doing it. Jim Ray was in the chat. Jim was a little bit under the weather this week, so he didn't get to join us, but he did pop in the chat. So, Jim, if you're still there, sorry you couldn't make it. Hope you can get back next week. We miss you.
Missed you, buddy.
With that, we'll go around and introduce where folks can find you, threads or not, and then we'll get out of here. So I'm going to flip it around and start with Webb. Webb, thank you so much for being here as always. Where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me on Thread. It's Web Bixby, WEBBIXBY, on Thread. I don't know how else better to say it, but that's where I'm at. So you can also find me in all the other places too with the same name, but I'm promoting Thread today.
There you go.
Go Zuck. And by the way, he's going to kick Elon's ass wherever they do that fight. So.
At the Coliseum.
Yeah.
If you need any proof beyond the fact that Musk is trying to pick a public fight, physical fight with Zuck, to show that we are in the decline of our current empire, there is no more evidence we need than that.
Yeah.
When they make it rich, you're like, choose ya, let's go fight in the Coliseum.
Mr. Gamet. When you're not in the Coliseum fighting, where can folks find you?
He's the lion. So.
Rower. Wow, it's been a while since I've done this. Let's see if I can remember. Okay, so all the social medias. I'm Jay Gamet. Yes, you can find me at the Coliseum. Yep. Social medias, I'm Jay Gamet, and yes, I am on Threads now too, and I'm trying to post a little bit there. And then let's see, shows. Tuesdays. Chuck, you keep letting me back on. I just after today's intro, I've really enjoyed being on the show, and I'll miss all of you. Let's see. Okay, so on Thursdays, Dave keeps letting me on In Touch with iOS, so I keep coming back. Earlier in the day on Thursdays, British Tech Network, the Big Show. Then on Fridays, the Mac Show, and then Brand Chaffin and I do the Context Machine, and that's plenty for now.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. And listen, you're always welcome. No matter what happens during the intros, you're always welcome.
Hey, you have a new theme song now.
Apparently so. Apparently so. Ben Roethig, thank you for being here. You and your orange shirt.
It's always a pleasure, Chuck.
Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on the 10,000 different social medias at Ben Roethig on them all. You can find my website at roethig.tech. As for shows, everything Jeff just said, except for the Context Machine.
Hey, I tried.
He did.
Yeah. We have it recorded. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Last but absolutely not least, David Ginsburg, thank you for being here. Where is the best place for folks to locate you?
Thanks for having me, Chuck. Find me on In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. The three of you here will be on the show this week. We're coming off of a week off. I also want to remind everybody we are, by the time that people listen to this, we're only 1 week away until MacStock. So I'm looking.
Oh, holy crap!
Super excited to see all you guys, or some of you guys anyway. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/intouchwithios. And I'm on the Mac Show on Fridays, and social media, I'm Dave G65 on most, including Threads. Thank you.
So David's implying that he's not going to be thrilled to see all of us, just some of us. See how that goes.
Yeah, well,
I wish I would translate that. He's very excited to see you, Chuck, and very excited to see you, Ben. And
except I won't be there.
And he's okay that I'll be there.
Yeah, he's okay. Yeah.
Ben, you won't be there?
No, you can't.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to script together the cash.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had to bail out some family members.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll tilt a chair for you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. We do this Tuesday night. It's been a weird night. I think we're all a little bit off from the holiday last week. Tuesday night, a little bit. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are, youtube.com/MacVoices TV right here. I definitely want to thank the guys in the chat room, everyone. They threw in some great comments. We tried to get to as many as possible. It was a lot of fun, top to bottom. With that, we'll be back next week. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.